Today, I turned 22. I'm sitting alone in my dorm room at Johns Hopkins, a school I got into on a full-ride scholarship. There's a cake on the table from a friend, unopened. My roommate's out celebrating with her parents. I told everyone I had studying to do. But the truth is, I just didn't want to talk to anyone today. Because no matter how far I've come, I still remember the exact moment my future was sold. Like a line item on a wedding budget. You see, people assume if you make it to a place like this, your life must have been picture perfect. Supportive parents, proud family, some kind of inspirational piano in the background story. I had the grades, the trophies, the straight A report cards, the glowing recommendation letters. I was the easy child, the smart one, the one who didn't cause problems. And still, I was the one they chose to sacrifice. My dorm window looks out at a courtyard where students walk by with backpacks and coffee, chasing dreams. I smile sometimes when I see them, because I know I belong here now. But there were years when I didn't even believe I'd make it past community college. Not because of my abilities, but because of what they did to me, my parents, my brother, the people who were supposed to protect my future. The worst part, they never even said sorry. They said I was being dramatic, that I should be grateful, that maybe it was for the best. But what do you do when the people who raised you quietly steal the one thing you've worked your whole life for? The answer is simple. You don't beg. You don't scream. You just build, quietly, fiercely, without them. Let me take you back to the day I found out the truth. At first glance, my dorm room could be mistaken for something out of a college brochure. A tidy bookshelf lined with research texts, a whiteboard filled with biomedical diagrams, a photo pinned above my desk from last summer, me in a lab coat, beaming next to a piece of prototype equipment. I'm 22, full scholarship to Johns Hopkins, monthly stipend, the youngest assistant researcher in my department's neurotech lab. To anyone outside, I've made it. To anyone inside, I'm still figuring out how to breathe. The kind of loneliness that follows you into success is different. It doesn't scream. It doesn't sob. It just waits, quietly, for nights like this, when the accolades feel weightless, and you realize you have no one to call who truly understands how hard it was to get here. I've learned how to clap for myself, because I had to. Sometimes, late at night, when the fluorescent light above my desk buzzes and the rest of the floor is asleep, I whisper things out loud, just so someone hears them, even if it's only the walls. Like, I miss believing they cared. I still remember when my parents first told me about Emma's future fund. I was 7, a messy-haired kid in soccer shorts, clutching my science fair certificate like it was a golden ticket. Mom crouched down beside me in the kitchen. "You're going to go to a great college someday," she said, brushing hair from my eyes. "We've been saving since the day you were born. It's called Emma's Future Fund." Dad nodded, arms crossed, proud but distant. "College is expensive," he added, "but don't worry. You focus on doing your best. We'll handle the rest." And so I did. Straight A's, perfect attendance, volunteer work, speech competitions, science fairs, student council. Every win was a step toward that promised future. And every time I questioned if I was doing enough, I'd hear my mom's voice. "We've got you, sweetheart. Just keep working hard." But hard work didn't make me visible. It made me convenient. I was the child who didn't need chasing, who didn't get detention, who didn't cry at parent-teacher conferences. So, while my brother, Tyler, tested curfews, scraped past finals, and crashed 2 cars before 19, I just kept my head down and worked. He got attention. I got expectations. And over time, I convinced myself that was love. The quiet kind, the invisible kind, the kind you earn by never needing it too loudly. Now, years later, I sit in this room, hundreds of miles away, with a framed acceptance letter on the wall and a bank account that reads 0 until my stipend hits. My parents didn't send me off to college. They didn't visit campus. There was no road trip with luggage in the trunk or crying hugs at the dorm entrance. I moved in alone, took a cab from the train station, carried my 2 bags up 3 flights because the elevator was broken. I didn't expect banners, but I also didn't expect silence. They hadn't even asked what day orientation was, but they used to care, didn't they? I think about that old filing cabinet in my dad's home office. Bottom drawer, silver handle, always locked. I was 13 the first time I saw him drop a statement in there, labeled in his meticulous handwriting, Emma's College Fund. It was real, tangible, proof that all this effort wasn't just some dream I was chasing alone. I didn't know, back then, that a label could be a lie, that a man could write his daughter's name on a folder, then gut its insides to fund someone else's fairy tale. That memory of seeing my name on that file comes back stronger than my birthday wishes tonight. Because when you're a kid, you believe what they tell you, that if you're good, things will come, that if you're the smart one, you'll be safe, that if you stay quiet, you'll be rewarded. But the truth, being the smart one, is just another way to be ignored, especially when there's a golden boy in the family who needs constant saving. Tyler could do no wrong. Even when he did, barely past high school, they threw him a backyard party and handed him car keys. Crashed that car a month later. He's just figuring it out. Failed his freshman year of college. Maybe it wasn't the right fit. Dropped out the next semester. He needs time. Got engaged at 23 to a girl he met on spring break. They called it meant to be. They called me reliable. They called me low maintenance. They called me the one who'll go far. They never asked what that cost me. So here I am, in a room I built for myself. Brick by emotional brick, surrounded by achievements that were never clapped for. And still, somewhere deep down, part of me keeps asking, why wasn't I enough to protect? But tonight, I'm not going to let the silence swallow that question. Because the answer, the real answer, started showing itself the day I opened that filing cabinet. And if you're ready, I'll show it to you too. Let me take you back. They say you don't realize you were the forgotten child until years later, when the love you thought was quiet starts to look more like neglect. But I felt it early, not in some grand, obvious way. It wasn't cruelty. It was something softer, quieter, like sunlight always falling just a few inches away from where you're standing. Tyler is 4 years older than me. In our baby albums, there are 3 times more pictures of him. Every first word, every Lego tower, every scraped knee of his got an entry in Mom's memory journal. Mine, pages empty, or reused with scribbles. Emma's first word, probably book or something. A sticky note was her best guess. But I loved him. God. I worshipped him. He was the hurricane, and I was the umbrella trying to stay open. He played baseball, not exceptionally well, but enough to get him on the team. And every Saturday, we'd sit in the bleachers while Mom shouted encouragement like he was up for the major leagues. I'd bring my books, homework, sometimes a notebook for sketching. Once, I got a 100% on my 4th grade math test and tried to show Dad during halftime. He smiled distractedly, patted my head, and said, "That's my girl. Now go cheer for your brother, huh?" That moment stuck in my chest for years. Like I'd done something wrong by not needing to be rescued. Tyler failed a geometry test once. He cried. They took him to Olive Garden for dinner, so he wouldn't feel like a failure. I got straight A's for 5 years straight. I got told not to brag. He was the sensitive one. I was the smart one, which really meant he was the one they bent rules for. I was the one they leaned on. I learned early how to hold things together. If a bill came late, I quietly reminded Mom. If groceries were running low, I made dinner with whatever we had. And when Tyler forgot to pick me up from school, again, I walked the 3 miles home and made up a story about staying late to help a teacher. Because Emma's so responsible wasn't a compliment. It was code for, she'll be fine without us. Still, I clung to the belief that they saw me, even if they didn't say it, even if they didn't show it. That belief crystallized the day Dad started the Emma's Future Fund. I was 9. It was a Sunday, the air thick with the smell of Mom's overcooked meatloaf. Tyler had just broken a lamp with a soccer ball in the living room. Again, Mom was yelling. Tyler was pouting. Dad was fixing the cord with duct tape. Then he looked at me and smiled, out of nowhere. "Come with me, Em." I followed him down the hall into his office, a place that always smelled like coffee and printer ink. He knelt by the file cabinet, unlocked the bottom drawer, and pulled out a folder. Fresh, crisp, new. He wrote across the tab in his neat, engineer handwriting, Emma's College Fund. I blinked. He handed me the folder like it was sacred. "We're starting this today," he said. "Every bonus I get from work, a little will go in here. You're going places, and I want to help get you there." It was the first time I felt chosen. Like I wasn't just the backup singer to Tyler's solo. Like someone saw the girl who stayed quiet, who kept score inside her head, but never said a word. I was already being spent on someone else's dream. By junior year of high school, I'd built a life entirely around becoming undeniable. Science fair ribbons lined my bedroom wall. State finalist 3 years in a row. I was taking 5 AP classes, volunteering weekends at the local hospital, vice president of STEM Club. Teachers called me Harvard material. I didn't tell them I wasn't aiming for Harvard. I was aiming for Johns Hopkins. AP Bio changed everything for me. It wasn't just interesting. It felt like a key, turning in a lock. We were dissecting heart valves one week, mapping gene sequences the next. I stayed after class just to ask more questions. My teacher, Mrs. Klein, once said, "You have the brain of a surgeon and the heart of a researcher." I printed out that quote and taped it above my desk, right next to my college checklist and a countdown to FAFSA season. That fall, I found a summer biomed research program, hosted by Hopkins itself, competitive, full ride, for high school students. I applied in secret, and when I got the acceptance email 2 months later, I ran downstairs, breathless with excitement. "Mom! Dad!" I got into the Hopkins Biomed Intensive. They were in the kitchen, choosing between shades of mauve and cream for floral arrangements. Tyler and his girlfriend, Leah, were visiting. They'd been dating for 6 months. "That's great, Em," Dad said, barely glancing up. Mom murmured something about emailing the caterer. Leah, sitting at the counter, smiled politely. Tyler didn't say anything. I stood there, holding the acceptance letter in my hand, the one I had printed out just so I could show it to them, and slowly folded it back into my pocket. It was the first time it occurred to me that my future might not be the family's. A week later, Tyler proposed. That night, I found an old jar in the kitchen cabinet, the one we used for spare change. I washed it, peeled off the label, and wrote in Sharpie, my part. It started small. Birthday money, babysitting jobs, coins I found in the laundry. But it mattered. Because it was mine. because it was proof that maybe, just maybe, all the invisible things I did were finally being noticed. That year, I made a collage in art class about our dreams. I cut out magazine photos of dorm rooms, college libraries, students in graduation gowns. I added a photo of me holding a spelling bee trophy, wrote Johns Hopkins in glitter across the top because I just read about their biomedical engineering program. Mom barely looked at it. "Looks expensive," she muttered, glancing past it to Tyler, who was asking for $200 for prom. But Dad saw it. He smiled, then walked into his office that night and added another paper to the folder. I don't know how many nights I stared at that drawer from the hallway, wanting to open it, just to see the numbers grow. But I never did, because I trusted it. I trusted them, even when my report cards got met with shrugs. Even when my brother's half-efforts got him cars, trips, and family attention like confetti. Even when I overheard Mom saying, "We don't need to worry about Emma. She'll always land on her feet." I didn't ask to be the one no one worried about. I just wanted to be the one they rooted for. So I kept saving. I kept achieving. And every time someone asked me how I stayed so motivated, I'd smile and say, "Because I know what I'm working toward." That folder, that promise, was my North Star. I trusted it more than birthdays, more than bedtime stories, more than anything they ever said out loud, because it was the only thing they ever did just for me. What I didn't know, what I couldn't imagine, was that the future I was building so carefully, at a vineyard, with a drone photographer and a ring Mom helped him pick out. The house exploded into champagne bottles and Pinterest boards. Suddenly, every conversation was about save the dates and signature cocktails. Leah started calling my mom, Mama. Dad gave Tyler a celebratory watch engraved with the wedding date. I gave myself a migraine from pretending none of it hurt. I reminded myself, this is just temporary. The wedding will pass. My time is coming. But then it started creeping into everything. Mom canceled our FAFSA planning night because she had a florist call. Dad missed my AP Chem Awards banquet for a venue tour. At dinner one night, I started to tell them about a scholarship essay I was working on, a personal story about resilience and self-made ambition. Mom waved a hand. "Emma, can we just not talk about college tonight? It's been wedding all day. I need a break." I opened my mouth to respond, but Tyler jumped in with a story about how Leah tripped on a step during dance class and still looked like a queen. They all laughed. I excused myself and did the dishes alone. And then came the conversation I wasn't meant to hear. It was a Tuesday. I was home early from study group, and Mom didn't hear me come in. She was on the phone in the sunroom, the place she retreated to when she wanted her voice to sound like control. "She'll be fine, Richard," she said, sharp but measured. "She always is. She's applying to, 20 scholarships. She'll get in somewhere. Maybe community college first. She's practical." A pause. "No, I'm not taking money out of the wedding budget. It's too late now." Another pause. A laugh. "Besides, we can't not do this right for Tyler. It's his only wedding. She'll have hers someday. And let's be honest, she's not even dating." I stood in the hallway, perfectly still, like the air itself might shatter if I moved. When she ended the call, I slipped upstairs and closed my bedroom door without a sound, laid down on my bed, stared at the ceiling. I didn't cry, not then. I think part of me already knew. I replayed every "not now" they gave me when I brought up college, every unopened email about financial forms, every shrug when I asked about the college fund. They were never going to say it out loud. They were just going to let me realize it, slowly, quietly, in moments like this. I was a line item that didn't make the wedding budget. The next day at school, I won a statewide innovation challenge. My team designed a low-cost glucose monitor for underserved communities. My name was in the local paper. I left a copy on the kitchen table. They never mentioned it. I started applying to scholarships like my life depended on it. Because it did. I'd stay up until 2 a.m. writing essays, borrowed dresses to attend interviews, took on a part-time tutoring job at the library to earn extra savings. When I finally built the courage to ask again about the college fund, Mom didn't look up from her laptop. "We'll talk after the wedding, sweetheart. You're so smart. You'll figure it out," Dad added. "Hopkins is a long shot anyway, Em. You should have some backups." Tyler looked up from his phone. "Leah got into a program for event planning. Maybe she can help with your graduation party." I nodded, smiled, and carried my empty plate to the sink. I wanted to scream, to shout that I'd done everything right, that I'd waited my turn, that I'd believed in them even when they'd forgotten me. But I didn't. I smiled and nodded like a good daughter, like a girl raised to be grateful for silence, like someone who had learned how to disappear without being missed. It was a Thursday evening when I realized I was running out of time. FAFSA was due in 4 days. Most scholarship deadlines were lining up behind it like dominoes. Every form needed financial documents: household income, savings, declared assets. I had already asked twice. First time, Mom said, "Let's circle back after the tasting next week." Second time, Dad said, "We're in wedding chaos, Em. Just grab the basics off last year's form and call it a day." But this wasn't a call-it-a-day moment. This was my future, and if no one else was going to fight for it, I'd have to. So I waited. Saturday afternoon. The house was quiet, a rare thing these days. Mom had taken Leah to her final dress fitting. Dad was golfing with Tyler and his best man. I walked down the hallway to my dad's office. It still smelled like printer ink and burnt coffee, just like it did when I was 9. The first time he let me peek inside the Emma's Future Fund folder. I stood in front of the filing cabinet, bottom drawer, same silver handle. I hesitated, then opened it. There it was, a new label, Emma's Education. I opened the folder, expecting to see updated bank statements, maybe a breakdown of contributions, maybe something reassuring. Instead, I saw death by transaction, a balance sheet, original amount, $92,300. Current balance, $5,237. Withdrawal after withdrawal, each one labeled with nauseating clarity. Venue deposit, $30,000. Photographer retainer, $7,800. Catering first installment, $12,500. Dress and accessories, $8,000. Champagne order, $2,300. Custom invitation design, $4,600. Page after page of receipts, bookings, non-refundable fees. My name was at the top of the folder, in thick, black ink. But my future had been written out of the bottom line. They had spent almost everything. I sat in the office chair for what felt like hours. The afternoon sun kept shifting across the hardwood floor. I didn't cry. I couldn't. I felt empty, like someone had knocked the wind out of me and forgot to stop. My first instinct wasn't even anger. It was confusion. Was this a mistake? Was this temporary? Was there a second account I didn't know about? But deep down, I already knew. This wasn't neglect. This was a decision. That night at dinner, I didn't eat. We sat around the table, chicken parmesan, candles lit, Leah talking about chair covers. I placed the folder on the table, slid it toward Dad. "I found this," I said calmly.